So what we're going to do to make sure that, see how the tile are all resting on the row right before it, except for the first row there's no preceding row. So in the original roof they had the fascia board just bumped up a little bit higher than the roof deck, and that's where we're going to find maybe a little bit of rot and damage in there. But that fascia board was raised up so that it gave the nose of that first course of tile a little bit of extra support. It needed to be higher because there's no tile underneath it. So with the new battens we're using, with that little elevated puck underneath, we're going to be raising those battens a little bit higher off of the deck because that puck is underneath there. So at the eave, it seems like we may need to add something additional right to the top of that fascia board to get the fascia to be the height that we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to check the tile to see how the cant angle of the tile is compared to the slope of the roof deck, and we're going to try to get it so that the first row has the same cant angle relative to the roof deck that the rest of the rows have. So by using the pitch gauge on the app on the phone, we can see that the roof deck itself has a roof slope of 4.5 in 12. And if we come up onto the tile, we're using a slate surface tile just so we get a real clean reading. If we come up on the slope of the tile, we're at a 3.4. That's with the second row with the nose resting on the row before it. And the next row has 3.5, so you can have a little bit of imperfection in the deck, but you know, 3.4, 3.5 row to row with second and third row, each of them having a preceding row before them. But if we go down to the first row, we can see that that pitch is all the way up to a 4.4. And that's because there's no preceding row of tile to help support it. We've got to figure out what it's going to take to raise that up and give us the proper cant angle on the rest of the rows. So now, just so we can test the slope, I've slipped a 1x2 underneath. We'll end up putting some anti-pawning metal combined with, it'll be an eave drip edge anti-pawning metal combined. But now with that 1x2 added in there, let's get our pitch gauge back in action. We've got a 3.6, 3.7, 3.5. Looks like it's going to settle in at a 3.5 on the surface of that first row. Surface of the second row, we're going to slip in at a 3.5. Let's take a look at the third row just to be sure. 3.4. So that's really close. Those first three rows now are equal. They're all resting on a row before them or our new eave riser detail. So when we get our flashing on there, that may kick it up just a tiny bit, but it's not going to be visible from the ground. And that's going to allow us to switch over from what was the original direct to the deck 1x2s, and now we're going to be adding the Boral EBS battens, and that's going to raise us up to allow water and air to flow underneath the tile. So Camilo, what we're looking at here, and all you guys, this is, I just tore off a few rows so I could prep for that eave riser detail, but this gives you an idea of what we'll be doing all the way around the roof. The tile will have a maximum 14-inch stretch out. That's from row to row, and we have an easy way to lay that out. The very first row, we're not going to be at 14. We're going to measure up 15 inches right from the corner of the fascia board, right where our brand new eave riser or eave drip edge metal is going to go. That'll run up probably 8 or 10 inches up the roof slope, but we're going to measure from that very corner of the fascia board right there up a total of 15 inches to chalk our first line. The reason we do that is the tile is going to extend 1 inch past the eave, and then it's going to extend 1 inch past our line or our batten, because there's a little lug that'll hook on it. So 15 inches for that first row. We'll always do that all the way around the building, 15 inches up from that corner of the eave. We'll put our flashing will go on underneath this underlayment when we have it. From then on up, we're going to take this tape that's marked every 14 inches. We're going to put that first arrow right on that 15-inch mark, and then we're going to go straight up to the ridge, or straight up to the head wall. And we got lucky on this particular job, because when we get up there and we look at 14-inch increments, that arrow is going to line up almost perfectly up there at the head wall. That's going to allow us to put a batten right there with that flashing removed. Our batten will sit there, our tile will butt up almost right into that head wall, and then we'll put our roof-to-wall flashing over the top of it. The way that this tape works, we'll put that first arrow right on the first line that you chalked, 15 inches up from the fascia board. Put that first arrow right there, and then we just run it straight up the roof. Do 2 of them. Actually, on one of these 100-foot long runs, we'll probably do 5 or 6 different runs up with the tape vertically right up the roof. And then you'll chalk lines from arrow to arrow, and that'll give us our horizontal lines that'll be straight all the way across the roof. No measuring, just following the arrows.